Hi, everyone. It's really wonderful to be with you today. I'm Professor Tara Sklar. I oversee our health law and policy program here. And we're going to have a lot of people joining us on Zoom. And then, of course, you guys in the room. And it's a pretty packed agenda, so I'll be brief, but I want to give a big thank you to the Health Law Society, especially Allison, Rascon, and Braden Mathis for feeding us today. So thank you for lunch. And also back there is Christina Kelso. She's our assistant director for the Health Law and Policy program, and really was tremendous with getting all the logistics together. So the few things are going to happen today over the next hour. We really wanted to give you an opportunity to hear from attorneys and executives that work in Arizona in the healthcare field. So we have three attorneys that are with AzHHA, the Arizona Society for Healthcare Attorneys, and we'll start with them. And then we're here from Danny McDermott, who is a recent alum of the U of A, who's now at Tucson Medical Center. And then Anne Marie, who just joined us, is with the Arizona Hospital and Healthcare Association, not to be confused with AzSHA. She's with AzHHA. And also Leah Wan, who's our Dean for Career Development, will be with us as well. And then quite a few of us will talk to you about just some of the courses that we're offering in health law for those of you that are still figuring out your plans for the summer and fall. And it's kind of a lot of information. At the end, we'll have Q&A. I just really want to emphasize that we hope to do this pretty regularly with the Health Law Society to just let you hear from folks actually working in the field. And it's really just about building bridges to connect with people, hear what they've done, hear what seemed to work or not work to help find your own path, and meet potential mentors, colleagues, and friends. So I'll introduce Miss Marki Stewart, who's joining us from Phoenix online. Let me just find my notes here. So Marki is currently a partner at Coppersmith Brockelman. She has an impressive legal career in healthcare, where she's represented dozens of hospitals and physician groups and other healthcare entities. Prior to her time at Coppersmith Brockelman, she was at Dickinson Wright, and she was recognized as a Southwest super lawyer in healthcare in 2024, so just last year. From her firm's website, I thought this was a great quote, so I wanted to share it with everyone. Ms. Stewart is dedicated not only to her clients, but also the community and legal profession. She has extensive service on the Arizona Society of Healthcare Attorneys Board of Directors, which is how I met Marki. And through that, she expressed interest in teaching and mentoring students in health law. And so this term, she's actually teaching right now. Maybe you even have her as your teacher in healthcare ethics. So please join me in welcoming Marki. Go ahead. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Sklar. I am delighted to be here with you all. I have been a practicing healthcare attorney now for almost 20 years, which is really hard to believe. I graduated law school in 2006, spent a year clerking at the Arizona Court of Appeals, and then after that went straight into private practice. So I have spent my entire career in private practice. First with a large law firm, Dickinson Wright, and now at a smaller law firm that has quite a large healthcare law practice. And so in my practice, I do a lot of different things. Some of my partners are very focused on their areas of expertise within healthcare law. Some are very focused on HIPAA or data breaches or, privacy issues. But I'm sort of more of a healthcare law generalist, I would say. And so in my practice, I spend a lot of time doing anti-kickback statute and Stark work, what we refer to as fraud and abuse in the healthcare space, which really just means analyzing physicians' financial arrangements that they have, making sure that they're compliant with the law, because there are a lot of laws that restrict physician ownership in, labs or imaging centers or ambulatory surgery centers. So those can be really complex issues. I also now have an area of expertise with reproductive health law, especially in the wake of Dobbs. It's been pretty chaotic for the last few years, as I'm sure you're all aware. And so advising clients on how to comply with state law regarding reproductive health law has been a good chunk of my practice. I also do regulatory board work. So I represent providers who have complaints filed against them before the Arizona Medical Board, the Nursing Board, the Osteopathic Board. I think at this point, I probably appeared before every board that we have. But I really enjoy doing board work. Board work is really sort of how I got my start in healthcare law back when I started at Dickinson Wright in 2007. And those can be really interesting because you kind of get to learn the medicine part of it. So if a patient complains that their physician hasn't met the standard of care, with respect to a particular procedure they received, or failure to diagnose, or any kind of error that they make, it sort of requires you to learn everything that you can about that particular procedure. And so I do enjoy learning the medicine part of it when I do board work. And then last, I do hospital peer review work. So I represent hospitals when they are essentially kicking physicians off the medical staff. They're saying, you physician can no longer practice in our hospital, either because of standard of care issues or because of behavioral issues. Most of the time, though, it's a combination of the two. We have physicians who both provide poor quality of care, and then they have behavioral issues as well. They're difficult to work with. I can tell you about one case where a physician threw a sharp, like in the operating room, in the direction of a nurse. So combination of level standard of care and behavioral issues typically is what leads to a hospital kicking a physician off their medical staff. I would like to just spend a couple of minutes talking about the Arizona Society for Healthcare Attorneys. So I became involved with the board of AzSHA many, many years ago. My partner at Dickinson Wright, his name was Jerry Gaffney. He taught me everything I know about healthcare law, raised me up as a young baby lawyer. And he was the president and secretary and treasurer of AzSHA at the time. It was a very non-sophisticated organization. Basically, we had a website and a cash box, and that was it. And so Jerry brought me on. I became the secretary and treasurer, and I'm so proud of the work that we've done in the last, 10 years to really modernize the organization and expand its reach. We put on monthly continuing education programs for healthcare lawyers in Arizona State. You may know that the state bar actually doesn't have a health law section, and so AzSHA sort of fulfills that role. But beyond having our continuing education programs, it's just a wonderful way to meet all of the healthcare lawyers in our state, to form connections. And I can't tell you how tremendously helpful that has been in my practice to know, oh, if I've got a client with a payment dispute with Access or Medicare, I'd reach out to Ben Runkle. I know that that's his area of expertise. And likewise, he knows if he has a client who has a Stark or anti-kickback statute issue, he can send them my way. So it's so valuable to be a member of AzSHA and to really get acquainted with the lawyers in our community. It's a pretty small health law community, which, makes it, really just wonderful that we get to know each other so well.
Oh, thank you so much, Marki. That was wonderful. And the other thing that we work on with AzHHA is the Scholars program. So we'll touch a little bit on that too. And Marki's been instrumental in connecting our students as potential scholars with AzHHA and year after year. So we'll talk a bit about that as well. So now we have an in-person panelist, Nick Meza. Really appreciate you coming down. Go ahead and come to the podium. I'll do a little intro for you that I looked up online.
All right,
Okay.
perfect. Perfect.
So-
Everything's online now.
I know. Nick is a partner at Quarles and Brady, where he advises on a variety of healthcare clients, including pharmacy law. And we actually have quite a few pharmacy students in our health law program too.
Okay.
So he and behavioral health and does an array of issues. I'm sure he'll talk with you, including also hearings before administrative boards that Ms. Stewart mentioned. This past January, he was promoted to the chair of the Phoenix office of the Health and Life Science practice. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, I
Yeah.
saw that online. Congratulations. And I thought I knew he had a master's degree in public health from U of A, but he also did his undergrad here as well, and really appreciate you coming down. So what I didn't mention to everyone is I do have little cards. So I'm gonna stop talking.
No. Get the hook and pull me off. I could talk forever. I will. I promise not to, because we do want to hear from everybody else, in particular, Ben, my fellow board member here. Words of wisdom. So my path to health law actually started here at U of A. Former pre-med. I wanted to be a pediatrician. As I was exposed to more and more areas of study, particularly law and policy, I said, man, that also sounds fun. So maybe 2 or 3 years, and I transitioned to public health, which to me seemed like the perfect bridge between my interest in health and science and law and policy. Was having so much fun after my undergraduate time here in Tucson, decided to get my MPH, focusing in on policy and management. And so law school was always in the back of my mind. I didn't really know what a health law attorney did. I just knew I wanted to support in some way, shape, or form the healthcare industry and healthcare providers. Few years out of graduate school, applied to both U of A and ASU, ended up going to ASU Law, but still bear down for all sports, right? And my dream job was, man, I don't know, in-house at Phoenix Children's. I thought that would be the dream job. The market was still pretty bad after I graduated. It was around 2013. And so what do? You take the best opportunities before you. I started at another firm, Jones Skelton, which had a medical malpractice as well as a nursing home defense practice. And so I thought maybe I could utilize some of my interest and background in health, at least in those practices. Oftentimes what happens at a large firm is you go where the need is. So I actually ended up being put in the municipal defense group. We represented towns and counties and sheriff's departments and the like. Interesting work, loved my boss, but had nothing to do with healthcare. And I would almost resign to the fact that this is what I will be doing. I'm good at it. I can do this. And then lo and behold, back to your earlier comment about connections and the relationships you build here in law school and beyond. I had a friend at Quarles that said, Nick, there's a health law position. You should apply. I applied after a ton of encouragement and ended up getting the job. And I have been at Quarles now for 11 years. Came up as a baby associate and now obviously chairing the healthcare group. My practice is really unique. You touched on certainly specializing in the pharmacy space. We do a lot of that type of work at Quarles, but everybody in the healthcare world is a generalist, some way, shape, or form. You have to at least spot these primary issues for your clients who operate in the healthcare space, whether it be fraud, waste, and abuse, like Marki noted, or you have just interdisciplinary clients that maybe have some behavioral health components, or they have a pharmacy component. My practice is very much a hybrid practice. So yes, we specialize in the pharmacy and drug distribution space, but I think you could probably categorize my practice into 3 buckets. 70% of the work that I do, maybe 80%, is regulatory compliance. I'm on calls each and every day with our clients who have multi-state national operations, and they're trying to roll out business models in multiple states and trying to stay compliant with the patchwork of requirements across the country, whether it be pharmacy, nursing, controlled substances laws, et cetera. The other 30% is probably split between transactional work and board representation work. So we will be brought on as specialists in deals when our healthcare clients are either buying or selling their business, and run diligence on the healthcare operations of those companies, which is always very fun. And then the third part is kind of the quasi-litigation piece, right? It's the administrative law component. It's not the sexy courtroom stuff. It is the wild, wild west of administrative law before boards of pharmacy, boards of nursing. It is really, really fun. You do get to get up there and advocate on behalf of your clients. And of course, you have to be quick on your toes because the rules of evidence, they kind of apply during those hearings, maybe not. But again, therein comes the relationships that you end up building, not only with the folks internally, but you deal with the regulators so often, you end up building relationships with them, even though you may be at times adverse to them because of what you're trying to do for your client or in defending your client. So how are we doing on time, Professor Sklar? All right. Hey, I didn't even practice this. So we're almost there. I'll just plug AzHHA again. It's a great organization, particularly for students. If you're interested in the healthcare space, you hear it all the time. The legal community is exceptionally small in Arizona. It's even smaller in the healthcare space. And so having a core network of individuals who maybe they're a future referral source, maybe they're a future client, maybe they're a future employer, it's always great to have to plant those seeds. So looking forward to chatting with all of you afterwards. And I think we're back on time.
Yeah. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
of course.
I think this is incredible information you're all hearing. So we'll keep it going with our next speaker, Mr. Ben Runkle. And I learned in chatting with him, I did do a little bit of online investigation, but I didn't quite put it all together till just now that he's done everything. He's done private practice, government, and in-house counsel. And that's just incredible. Right now he's at Community Bridges that I know some of you in the room have expressed interest in. I'll talk more about, but I just think that's an incredible journey and so unique, and I won't waste any more time and I'll just be right here with my little time cards.
All right, great. I may look at them, I may not. It's hard to say. Yeah, so people joke with me that I've done so many things, but it's mostly just because I get super bored. And so I do things for about 3 or 4 years. And then if I'm not excited about it anymore, I find something new to do. And I've just been very fortunate in my life that has worked out. So I actually started as a paramedic, and then I was a firefighter paramedic for a while, and then I was a police officer in Indianapolis for a while. And then I was like, oh, and I was testifying in different cases, and the one that really hooked me for law was I testified in a murder trial where I rolled up on the scene as a police officer, and there was a dead guy right there, and a guy with a gun in his hand with his hands up, and he goes, "I did it. It was me. Don't worry, I'm not a threat." And of course, we did our thing where we gently put him on the ground and put him in some handcuffs. And so I testified twice in that case because he killed that guy because he had just found out earlier that day that guy had allegedly raped his daughter. And the detectives had just told them that the prosecutor was not going to pick up the case. And he said, well, F this, I'm going to take care of this myself. So I ended up testifying twice in that case because the first one was a hung jury, which I was okay with. And then the second time the prosecutors actually tried to get him on a manslaughter charge instead, and the jury bought into that, but they wouldn't do the murder charge. So that's how that ended up. And so I was like, oh, I could do this. And so I decided I was going to go to law school. And I did, and I got out. I did criminal defense, and that was how I got into healthcare law initially, because I did criminal defense work at Gallagher and Kennedy, and it was, a lot of, assaults and stuff like that, but mostly because it's a big firm, well, not a big firm, but a good sized firm. It was a lot of Medicaid, Medicare fraud. So I started doing that, and then I switched. I was a prosecutor for a while, and then I was like, oh, I want to get away from the criminal side of this and get more into the government stuff. And I'm kind of a public servant person. So I ended up working at AzSHA, which is the Medicaid agency, for several years. And then went into private practice where I mostly did regulatory work. And one of my biggest clients was Community Bridges. The CEO and I went and hiked Hadrian's Wall in England last year. And he basically followed me for 84 miles, explaining to me why I should just come on board now. And you don't worry about that pay cut. I'll just feel good about the work we do, and that'll help make up for the money I don't make now. But no, it was actually awesome. So Community Bridges, we have about 50 facilities. We have a crisis center in DC. We have mobile crisis teams in Oklahoma. We're opening homeless shelters with wraparound supported housing services in Albuquerque. I'm going to be traveling to rural New Mexico in Clovis because we're building a regional behavioral health center there to do crisis and residential and a little bit of inpatient. And then we have 40 plus facilities here that range from everything from street outreach programs to crisis facilities, which are like emergency rooms for people with behavioral health issues, to inpatient, residential, methadone clinics, homeless shelters. And what's actually keeping me up at night and I'm spending a lot of time on right now is every single day, it seems like there's some new federal funding that somebody wants to freeze, even though they're obligated funds and they're contractually obligated to pay them. So we spend a lot of time right now trying to, like with SAMHSA grants and stuff, trying to figure out where to move people to keep them employed until we figure out this funding freeze. The one with SAMHSA, the most recent one that there was just a TRO on, is particularly bad because it provides heat relief during the summer in Phoenix and Mesa, Chandler, and a few other places. So there just may not be heat relief stations for homeless people this summer, which means there will be more dead people. Or more people flooding the ER, which if you want to talk about cost, that is insanely costly, like compared to just giving somebody water and a little relief from the heat. So anyway, I see I have one more minute. But I love community bridges. It's my newest challenge. I'm in-house now, so I'm doing a lot of different things. I'm not fighting with the government all day. In fact, mostly I've just been working with the governor's office and access these days, trying to figure out what to do with funding. And so it's kind of a nice change of pace for me. So thank you very much. Oh, and AzSHA, it's really awesome. We really need somebody like a Danny McDermott to like really start a thing down here where people are in person for our CLEs. And that would be awesome because we'd love to have more participation from Tucson. Thank you.
That's great. And that's a really nice segue to our AzHHA Scholars for 2025. So we have joining us on Zoom, we have Shealyn Robinson. We also have Masoud Ghorbani. Please stand up. And then we have our grand winner for 2025, which is Allison Rascon. So just congratulations. I know Shay wanted to say a few words, then I'm going to turn the podium over to Allison. So Shay, do you want to just kind of speak with the group about your experiences doing health law at U of A and your plans going forward, working with AzHHA? Anything you'd like to share, please feel free.
Yeah, for sure. So starting with AzSHA, my background about health law was pretty limited to my own experiences coming into law school. And so I became a student AzSHA member per a professor's recommendation. I didn't know what that was moving here, to try to just gain some insight into Arizona health law in the market and get some background. And the webinars and events that I attended in person and virtually were really instrumental in educating me on like health law basics and what kind of route I wanted to go or what I wanted to pursue after law school. And it also showed me how to be competitive in the industry and was really instrumental for networking. So if you're not a student member, I highly recommend that. And being a scholar has been amazing so far. And I'm sure it will be to continue. I don't know why I said it like that. It's been great. I'm sure it will continue to be great. For the law students in the room, I've completed a certificate under Professor Sklar's program, and I'm in the process of completing Professor Spiess's certificate directly through the law school. So if anyone has any questions about that from a student perspective, I'm sure we can find a way to talk after this. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Shay. Do you want to come up?
Hi, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Allison. I'm a 3L here and one of the AzSHA Scholars. Health law brought me to law school. Like Nick, I was a public health major here, and actually I went to a brown bag lunch with Professor Layla Barraza. I don't know if she's on, but she kind of introduced me to the JD MPH program and using those skills to combine law and public health together in the policy and management program. Ultimately, this got me interested in attending law school, and what drew me to U of A Law was the incredible health law program we have here, all of the certificates and all of the amazing courses. If you're a 1L or a 2L, I would highly recommend taking these classes, especially Professor Knuckles's class. I really, really enjoyed that. That's legal and regulatory aspects of healthcare. They're really flexible, very practical, and they're all online and 7 weeks long. So that's another plus. What else? So The health law program has also given me an incredible mentor, Professor Sklar, who has introduced me to the world of telehealth law and has given me great research opportunities. So if you're interested in health law, he's an incredible resource and has given the opportunity for Shay and Masoud and I to become AzSHA Scholars and get more involved with AzSHA. And like Shay was saying, being an AzSHA student member is great. It's free and you get access to the webinars, the social events, and networking events. We had this amazing wine and cheese mixer that Nick and Ben can attest to. Was a lot of fun. Ben, Nick, Marki, thank you so much for the opportunity to be an AzSHA Scholar. This has been a great opportunity and I'm so honored to receive this award.
Okay. Oh, you guys are such a great group. And for those of you online, I can't see the chat at the moment, but as soon as we go to Q&A, I'll look at it and we'll have a nice, well, please feel free to write any questions in the chat. As Allison mentioned, I do have some funding from the College of Medicine to hire a part-time fellow that I appreciate the Health Law Society advertising. So please apply. Danny and Allison and Shay and Masoud have all worked with me and nobody's complained or ran away. And it's been a really, really positive experience. So yeah, totally. So on that note, I want to introduce Danny McDermott. He was our inaugural AzSHA Scholar last year. And now he's at TMC, as you all know. He's getting some peer pressure to get some CLEs. And yeah, I'm just so glad you can be here. And he's reached out numerous times to connect with our students and potentially work with them at TMC. So
yeah,
thanks for being here.
I'll end with the TMC plug, but I think I'll give you a background or some history as to how I ended up at TMC, how I got into health law. But I think my value here is really telling you what a career in health law is like for a young attorney. I mean, I graduated from here in April, I guess.
Happy anniversary.
Thank you. So I took the bar in July and I've been practicing as an attorney for 6 months, basically. So I want to give you some practical advice on how to start and also kind of put you at ease as to, at least in my situation, the expectations that come with the positions. By way of background, I went to undergrad here. I studied history, totally irrelevant. Didn't know what I wanted to do after undergrad. So I became a tax preparer at the United Way here. They have a free volunteer income tax program. So I helped administer that here. And then just kind of lucked my way into a position at the Kaiser Family Foundation. So they do health policy research. I just hit it off with my boss during our interview and ended up doing 4 years of research on the ACA and the Affordable Care Act marketplaces. My first day working at KFF was the same day as John McCain's infamous thumbs down vote. So there was a lot of tumult and developments during my 4 years there. And I kind of hit a wall where I had gotten as high as I could in the organization without a master's degree. I was like, oh, I could go do a master's in public health, but ideally I would get back here and I could learn everything I need to on the job. Why would I go invest 2 years to do that? And they had a couple lawyers on staff who did not practice law. Most of what they did was interpret regulations or case law that impacted the health policy space. And in conversations with them, they really stressed that your law degree is flexible. Everyone speaking today is a practicing healthcare attorney, but there are so many people out there, and even in the last year that I've met, who have a JD, practice law, but now no longer are actively quote unquote practicing. I mean, TMC Healthcare has a new CEO who has a JD, worked in hospital operations on the East Coast for a while and hasn't probably touched her JD or used it specifically in a decade, but I'm sure that it comes in handy in every aspect of her role. I was very fortunate to get my role at TMC, partly due to Professor Sklar making an introduction to Tim Rushlow, who's the general counsel there. Tracy is also a former general counsel there, so I would also like to take the opportunity to plug his course. Specifically, if you're interested in a job at TMC, it basically teaches health law and compliance from the perspective of a hospital in-house counsel. So I'm not going to say that I was able to hit the ground running, because a 4-month course is nowhere long enough to go into the type of detail needed to become an expert on anything in this field. But it helped me hit the ground walking instead of crawling or being dragged along. So incredibly valuable. I think in large part I got my job in-house just because Tucson is not a quote unquote desirable marketplace. I love Tucson. I was born here. I want to stay here. And I was interning at TMC in their legal department during my 3L year. I think Tim liked me. Tim liked my coursework. But during that time, he was interviewing career attorneys for an open associate general counsel role. And for whatever reason, he didn't like their work product, or they weren't willing to move to Tucson. So he gave me kind of a shot. And during those conversations, I remember they had one finalist, and he sat me down. He's like, look, I want to offer you this job. And part of it is because whoever I bring in is not going to know the answer to 99.9% of the questions that are posed to our department. When working with stakeholders across the hospital and across the health system, they're going to give me more grace than they would a 55-year-old career attorney, just because I think they would have the assumption that, look, you've been doing this for a while, you should know this. To some extent, that's true. And one of my big pieces of advice is to leverage your, looking around the room, your youth or your inexperience. Like, people are willing, in my experience, to give you some grace when you don't know the answer to something. And also, I was a little bit naive going into TMC. I was like, this hospital has been around for 80 years at this point. There is no way they're still dealing with novel issues on a day-to-day basis. Professor Knuckles laughs. It's could not be further from the truth. They deal with random, sad, sometimes funny issues that have never been seen before on a day-to-day basis. And the other attorneys, who are much older, much more experienced than me, also don't have an answer off the top of their head 99% of the times. So I hope that puts you at ease. I think my last piece of practical advice would be, when I was in my 3L year of law school, I asked around, I was like, should I take classes that I'm interested in, or should I take classes that I think will serve me well in my position? They said, take classes you're interested in, enjoy your time. To some extent, that's true. But in hindsight, I do regret not taking some classes, particularly if you're interested in working in-house. Take employment law, because regardless of the field you're in, you deal with it. What other? I mean, yeah, employment law is a big one, but don't expect to come out a generalist. All these people are generalists, so they say. Take that with a grain of salt. They're experts. I wouldn't call myself a generalist. I would call myself a novice at this point. Maybe in a few years, I'll be a generalist with a foundational understanding of a lot of areas of health law, but maybe not a deep understanding of most. And that's okay. So there you go.
I think that's really helpful advice. And actually, in my online work here, there was a quote from Danny in our letter of the law. I'm sure you guys all read our letter of the law, when he was about to graduate from U of A. And the question was, what are you most proud of while at Arizona Law? And Danny said, I may quote you, generally, just saying yes to opportunities to work with professors and practicing attorneys. At times I felt overextended, but each of these projects turned into connections that will benefit me later, particularly as I'm starting my career. So that was a beautiful statement. And I also struggle with being overextended, as I think we all do, but I think it was something to really strive for. So thank you. And actually, Anne-Marie Alameddin is our next speaker, and she has a JD and that does government relations type work, and has for a very long time. So it'll be wonderful to transition now to the Arizona Hospital and Healthcare Association. Prior to working at AzHHA, Anne-Marie served as in-house counsel, government relations for the John C. Lincoln Health Network, where she led a $1.4 billion affiliation with Scottsdale Healthcare, which is now Honor Health. And Anne-Marie specifically reached out to us to connect with our students and has some research opportunities that she wanted to share with you. So thank you for joining us from Phoenix, Anne-Marie, and I'll turn the floor over to you.
Great, thank you so much. And thanks for having me today. So As was mentioned, I'm the president and CEO of the Arizona Hospital and Healthcare Association. So we're a trade association for Arizona hospitals. And our purpose is really bringing together diverse voices to advance health and healthcare in Arizona. So we do that through our member organization. And when I was in law school, I didn't even know that trade associations existed. Like, I didn't even know that a position like mine was possible. But I think your life kind of unfolds if you allow yourself the ability to kind of follow your interests and what really kind of rings the bell for you. So that's what I would encourage all of you to do, kind of what Danny said, take classes you're interested in, I guess, with some guardrails of classes you might need to know for your next career, but really just kind of follow your heart and your interests. And that's certainly what's played out in my career. I too thought I wanted to be a physician. I think Nick mentioned that earlier. I went to Creighton University, did not like the science classes, and ended up being a history major like Danny. And taught, I know. So I'm like connecting all these dots here. And I ended up teaching history at high school for 4 years because I was really just trying to find my path, but always felt drawn to healthcare. I was a candy striper in high school, and I volunteered at Phoenix Children's Hospital. And I just saw how important, quality healthcare was for everyone. And when I taught high school, I also happened to get a master's in theology and a focus with bioethics and really access to care and the ethics of healthcare, access to it, as well as like end of life issues, I thought were so compelling, and I wanted to kind of work in that space. And practically, if I didn't really want to be an academic, I thought, well, law school, if I could be in-house counsel, maybe I could keep a finger in it. Maybe I could be exposed generally to those topics, but like in a practical career path. So I went to ASU Law. Sorry, I know that there's a big rivalry that I don't really feel a part of, but I recognize other people feel that way. I got a health law certificate and really followed my interests. I did a lot of pro bono clinics for domestic violence shelters, not because that related to health law, but because I thought that was important. Like, I wanted to be a part of that kind of work. I also did some summers abroad in taking a class from Ruth Bader Ginsburg in Italy because I just wanted to take advantage of that opportunity, not thinking that I'd ever really have that opportunity to travel like that once I was working and had responsibilities that wouldn't allow that type of leave. So take advantage of the time that you have right now. I haven't been able to travel again internationally, since then, which is probably more my own fault, but just take advantage because you're in such a great time of life to be able to do that. So how does my position relate to health law? So as a trade association, we work on health policy, and I really think of the Hospital Association as a platform to solve problems. And ultimately, it needs to be in service to patients and communities in the state. We should be leading healthcare improvement in the state in lots of different ways. And we do that through policy and advocacy. We do that through lobbying at the legislature and in DC. We do it through regulatory work, and we also do it through programs. So we have lots of grant-funded programs, really kind of two main bodies of work. Emergency preparedness, we run the statewide coalition for emergency preparedness, and that entity does hazard vulnerabilities, trainings, and exercises so that we are able to provide optimal patient care regardless of the emergency. So they led, for instance, the St. Luke's behavioral health evacuation in August because of an HVAC failure, and we transferred 90 patients, behavioral health patients, in 36 hours, which is really very difficult to do, to find placement and transportation and the logistics of that. So that's one program. And then we also have a care improvement program where we work on workforce shortages, and we have a nurse residency program as well as maternal health improvement, where we lead safety work to really improve maternal care in Arizona, because we quite frankly have a lot of work to do in that area. So that's kind of the scope. I didn't know that this existed, but I really love it. And I sit here not as a practicing lawyer. I'm technically retired, But certainly my legal background helped get me to this position. I was an in-house counsel for 2 hospitals in Phoenix, and during the Affordable Care Act and Medicaid restoration and expansion, I was at John C. Lincoln and was a part of that really broad-based coalition that helped expand Medicaid in Arizona, where over 400,000 people were able to get access to coverage. And I'm sure a lot of people in the room were also engaged in that. But I saw the impact of really important policy and really articulating that. And I was inspired and wanted to do more of that. So I think that's really important to think about your own life, what inspires you, what drew you to law school, what draws you to healthcare, because it's different for every single person. And just kind of pull that thread in your life to follow your interests. There's a quote from Parker Palmer I pulled out, and it says, "Before I can tell my life what I want to do with it, I must listen to my life telling me who I am." And so if I had one sort of word of encouragement, it's really to listen. Listen to yourself, listen to your interests, and then follow that path. So with that, I know you mentioned that I'm interested, and we were interested in kind of developing more of an internship program here at AzHHA. So many interesting issues. We're sort of at the forefront of defending Medicaid in Arizona. So many important issues, and we'd love to have some interns help with that, with research and writing. And if you'd want to be exposed to the policy and lobbying world, I'm happy to do so. So I think we are working on getting that posted, yeah, we look forward to building the relationship with U of A.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Big round of applause. And Marie, I think you should be our commencement speaker.
Oh gosh.
That was really beautiful. And this is a great segue to Dean Vaughn, who is heads up our career development office. And if you don't already know Dean Vaughn, then you need to know her. She is just a tremendous advocate of finding that right fit. So after you listen to what your life is telling you, go see Dean Vaughn and let her know, and she'll try to find the best match. So Leah, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Professor Sklar, Health Law team, all of the groups and organizations, student, external, otherwise, that help bring this together. Anne-Marie, that was a terrific setup for me. Thank you. I'd love to work with you in identifying individuals to work with you. This entire event, in my view, is exactly what we'd like to have happen with our students and with our alumni and organizations that are really focused on a particular area of law. And so I thank you all for making me a part of this. And I just have a quick intro and then one offer and one ask. And I want to continue to hear about the career arcs of everyone in the room. I think that's a hazard of my job, is I love to learn more about all of the individuals who contribute to our community. I lead a team of 4 JD career advisors who are based in Tucson, and I'm coming to you from my home office in Phoenix, and I travel regularly to Tucson. I'm an alum of the law school, and I care deeply about our students and our graduates and their connective tissue, because it's so often that our students learn from our alumni and the virtuous cycle is repeated. And I see that over and over again in the comments that we've had here today. My offer is to let you know that the Career Development Office, working in concert with our marketing team, has released a new version of the career website. And on that website, you can find the connection through our CareerCat recruiting platform. What does CareerCat allow us to do? It allows us to use data to connect our students and alumni with employers and organizations, and 3 primary ways to do that. One is when there is a posted opportunity: scholarship, fellowship, paid position, unpaid position, externship, whatever nomenclature you'd like to think about, and whatever level of student, JD student, you'd like to think about, we can post those live opportunities to CareerCat. We also have the ability to promote them to students and alumni who have indicated particular practice area interests, for example, healthcare law and otherwise. Another way to engage is by participating in our interview programs. We'll be hosting one here in Phoenix, both virtual options and at UA Scottsdale Center. If you haven't seen that center yet, I'd be happy to tour you there. It's really fun. It's right across from the Scottsdale Fashion Mall on Scottsdale and Camelback. And we host that at the end of July. Actually, I think the beginning of August this year. So interviewing our students is a great way to learn about who they are and their interests. And we always encourage organizations across practice settings to meet students that way. Third way to engage with our students through the CareerCat platform is to propose an event, whether it's a virtual information session about your area of practice. I hear many threads of, well, I didn't know about this in law school. You could be the one to explain to students your practice and how you got to where you are. And so we take those in through CareerCat, and then we partner with our student organizations, for example, our amazing Arizona Health Law Society, and they can help build student interest and awareness of the opportunity in that way. So that's my offer. My ask is just to keep doing what you're doing when you're out and about, meeting with your network and meeting with colleagues. If you hear of anything where you feel like an Arizona law student or graduate could contribute to the work, it doesn't have to be a long email. You can send me just like a quick note and I will follow up. I follow up on every single interest or lead or idea. It doesn't necessarily need to be a job, just like an introduction that you think might be good for a particular student if they're wanting to learn more about a particular area and someone in your network is researching that area. Please let us be the place where we can connect you. And that's it. Thank you so much. And I'm interested to hear more from you all.
Great. So we have about 12 minutes left. We're going to enter speed round. We are going to hear from some of your professors in the program. And I'm going to kick us off. We're going to go alphabetical order with Professor Leila Barraza, who's joining us online from maybe the College of Public Health or her home office. And okay, the College of Public. So Professor Barraza has been at the College of Public Health, but also has taught at our law school for many years. She teaches a public health law and ethics class that she's running this summer. And she's also the interim chair for the Department of Community, Environment, and Policy. And she has a research opportunity for you, especially if you're interested in working on rural workforce issues. So Leila, please, you have the floor.
Thank you. Well, I'm glad to see so many familiar faces on this call. It's nice to bring us all. Thank you for bringing us all together. I am joining from the College of Public Health, our Phoenix campus. We actually have a satellite campus in Phoenix, and we had a little change in departments. So I'm the interim department chair for the Public Health. We have a really long name. It's Public Health Practice, Policy, and Translational Research Department, and that's our department in Phoenix. I do, as mentioned, I teach public health law and ethics. I teach it in person in spring and online in the summer, and love meeting with students and love to hear everyone's stories. But I'm going to be really quick about this research opportunity because I know we are really short on time. A colleague that I think many of you know, Elizabeth Hall-Lipsey, who is in the College of Pharmacy at University of Arizona. She and I collaborate quite a bit, and we're working on a project around state workforce programs. So you may have heard of like the National Health Service Corps. Well, states have their own like loan repayment or healthcare workforce programs for those practicing in rural areas. We need more healthcare providers in rural areas. So we want to do some research looking at state programs across the US that support providers going into rural areas to increase the number of rural healthcare providers. So that's like my super, super fast summary. So thank you.
And if anyone's interested in any of these opportunities, you could contact Braden and he'll let us know. You could also just reach out to law-healthcare@arizona.edu. So Professor Nichols is coming up. He has the agenda and he is a tremendous leader in our healthcare community. He has been with me since the very beginning when we first talked about creating the health law certificate programs. I'm not going to say anything else. This is great.
Okay. Well, thank you. This is really an amazing presentation of a lot of experiences. You're hearing such diverse experiences and opportunities. I just happen to be in this field for 50 years this year and have touched all different aspects. And if you have an interest, what I want to do is encourage you to get this brochure, This is the program put together by Professor Sklar, Professor Spies, a few of the rest of us. You can take these courses in a limited period of time online and get yourself very into different components of healthcare law. You'll know then whether or not you have further interest. So that's my 1 minute. Get the get the brochure, take 1 or 2 of these courses. It will not hurt you. It will not hurt you. And it is, well, I don't know about that. My TAs might think differently, but no, this is great. And so I really encourage you, and Christina in the back can get you whatever you need. Right? That's it.
And you all heard that Tracy teaches a phenomenal course in the fall, so take that one for sure. Professor Spies, please come up. Again, longtime leader in our healthcare community and at the law school, and he's going to speak with you about the courses he teaches.
So I'm the John D. Lyons Professor of Law at the law school here. Had the first case book in law and bioethics. I've twice been the section head of the law and medicine section of the American Association of Law Schools. And I also had the first book on clinical practice and research published by Oxford University Press. So I offer bioethics, which will be offered next spring. And I'm also the head of the health law certificate, which is a general certificate. And you can use some of the courses for more than one certificate. But the core of the requirements are posted on the website of the law school. Okay, but the core is bioethics, my course, 654, Tracy's course, Lisa's course on public health. So we try, and one course that I would have to arrange with you if you want the certificate is somehow I've got to get you medical liability. And I might be doing an online course for that, or, but somehow I did it with Shealyn, that we did independent study so she could cover that. So I want to accommodate you, but you have to talk to me first. Some guy just contacted me after 3 years and said, "Oh, here, I'm the certificate." No, because he didn't have all the requirements. That's it about the courses.
Thank you. Okay, you guys have been an amazing audience. I'm just going to quickly plug the fellow position if you're interested. I have some flyers here. I can send it to you online. But it's an opportunity for you to continue to network with a lot of the people that you met today, to co-author with me if you're interested, to do your independent research. A lot of it is around virtual care and an aging population, but I work on all kinds of projects. So, and as you, Tracy mentioned too, Christina Kelso's in the back, and we can answer questions about the other online certificates that we offer. So I want to just introduce Braden Mathis real quick, because he is the chair of the Health Law Society, and he has some announcements about what you guys are doing now.
Just want to thank everybody for coming today. Health Law Society will make sure to follow up with a lot of you, just to be able to have you as contacts, to be able to allow students to be able to form connections over the next couple of years. We have one more event coming up that's still in the planning phase. It's going to be for later in April with the Business Law Society that's going to be starting up again. And then the last thing is that Health Law Society is currently holding its elections and allowing for submissions in that. So we're sending out a lot of emails this week. There was scheduled, I think, one every day, Monday through Friday. But as soon as that stops, we'll end up compiling a lot of this information for a later date, just to be able to have for there. We'll also compile some of the information that we've learned today, just that everybody has it. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Okay, does anybody have any questions online? Also, I have the chat open. Please, you can, any general questions, if you want to talk to any of the panelists. Any questions at all? Oh, thank you, Ben.
Professor Barraza, Community Bridges would love to talk to you about your research, considering I would say a good half of our facilities are in rural or frontier areas. and getting the workforce out there has been challenging. And one way that we do that is we do pay for people's education, and then we ask them to give us, a certain amount of time in different places. So, but it's probably not helpful for your research, but we could certainly benefit from your research, and we probably have some actual data on the ground of the difficulties. So please feel free to
That
reach
sounds
out to me.
great. Yeah, we'll definitely connect. Thank you.
I can liaise so you guys have each other's emails. I didn't want to be a matchmaker against that.
Thanks, dear.
And I do a lot of telehealth work, so we can connect on that too. That'd be great. I can't always get to the rural area, or at least not every day. Are there any other questions? Yeah. Hey, yeah, go ahead, Jack.
Okay, so this is kind of an open question to anyone here in practice, but I'm curious about what developments policy-wise in like the Arizona state government have substantially impacted your work in the past probably 10 years. I don't want to say just since the pandemic, probably a little before then, but yeah, any statewide policy like that that's been particularly impactful one way or the other.
Yeah, you were inundated, so.
Yeah. Well, and Marki's probably got thoughts on this from the reproductive health point of view, but I would say in the last 3 or 4 years, we had a massive behavioral health fraud crisis in the state that arose from the pandemic. Basically, what was happening is you had a lot of very good and well-intentioned people who were trying to provide behavioral health services to people, especially Native Americans, who could not get off the reservation because of the pandemic. And also on several reservations, they just closed all the facilities down. And so people were being brought to Phoenix. They were staying in sober living, 99% of which were not licensed like they were supposed to be. But then there was some taking advantage of that. And so the government's response to that was initially to pretend like it wasn't happening and just watch all the expenditures go up until $2 billion went by. And then over the course of about 2 to 3 years, and then it was to overreact. So right now, one of the things that I've seen that they are backing off of now is I literally had a conversation with a government lawyer where I said, well, you're not following your own rules on due process. You can't just do these things. You got to give people, notice and an opportunity to be heard and maybe follow your rules. And they said, yeah, if you don't like it, just litigate it all the way to court. We're pretty sure you'll run out of money first before we do. That's not what I like to hear from the government. And so there was some difficulties with that. So that changed the whole landscape for behavioral health over the last few years, because they had a moratorium for like 2 years where you couldn't open a new behavioral health facility. So unless you were a very well-established big behavioral health provider or banner, it was tough. Yeah, it was tough. And they were actively trying every day to shut you down if you were like a facility only had 1 or 2 facility, even if you may not have done anything wrong. There was just this effort to shut everyone down.
Yeah, so many mom and pops, like smaller businesses that like got into this state to do good work, were just looped into this huge enforcement environment, and unfortunately bled dry, right? Because they didn't have the funds. Their revenue was cut off because they were suspended from the program. And so you saw a lot of folks go out of business, which even worse now, they'll probably be barred from government participation as well moving forward, just because the cases were not moving along fast enough. So it's a sad state of affairs for sure.
Yeah. Professor Skates, we'll just hear from Marki real quick online, and then then we'll hear your comments. Go ahead, Marki.
Yeah, so Ben knows me so well. Yes, I would definitely say that the changes with respect to reproductive health law in this state is it's really been mind-boggling to practice in this area during this period of time. So the Arizona legislature, when it knew that the Dobbs case was pending before the Supreme Court, this was before the Supreme Court opinion was leaked, the Arizona legislature passed a 15-week ban, reasoning that if the Supreme Court in Dobbs upholds the state statute that was at issue in that case, maybe this 15-week ban would be enforceable. I don't know if they ever thought that the Supreme Court would go so far as to overturn Roe versus Wade, but that's what happened. And so when the Dobbs opinion was issued, immediately what we lawyers were dealing with was a situation where on our statutes books, we had a 15-week ban. We had a 20-week ban, which had been the law of the land for many years under Roe versus Wade. And then we also had these statutes that were passed in the 1800s, the territorial ban that outlawed abortion outright. And so the chaos that happened immediately upon issuance of the Dobbs decision was all these reproductive healthcare providers, including maternal fetal medicine specialists who treat women with high-risk pregnancies, and hospitals and lots of different healthcare providers were looking to us to say, which laws do we comply with? We have all these conflicting laws on the books. And so it's been chaotic, to say the least, and we haven't got clarity on a lot of those issues, except periodically through time, as when the Arizona Supreme Court ruled that the law from the 1800s would be in place. And then our state's elected representatives, our attorney general, came out articulating their positions. But it's been an incredibly difficult task advising physicians as to what rules apply, what can they do to protect themselves. And you also have to remember that these state law restrictions carry criminal penalties. So it's not as if, if they violate the law, maybe they're just looking at an Arizona Medical Board enforcement action. No, they're actually looking at jail, at being put into jail if they violate the laws. While on the other hand, dealing with a lot of women who have high risk pregnancy situations, sepsis, miscarriage care. And so physicians were really put into an impossible situation of determining, do I not provide care and risk the patient's life, or do I provide the care and risk going to jail? So that has definitely been the most challenging aspect of my practice in my entire career.
Thank you for sharing. I wish we could keep going. I have to let you go, but Professor Spies wanted to say a comment before I release everything. Yeah.
The biggest development is the hacking of the Arizona Supreme Court, and apropos is them upholding the territorial act, which was absurd. It went from Democratic to Republican, from liberal to conservative. That has a lot of impact in many cases.
Yeah. You guys have been amazing. I hope you found this helpful, and we definitely can revisit how to do it better in the future. But I want to thank our speakers so much for coming, for taking the time. We very much appreciate it, and we hope to do this again. So thank you. And I know we had some questions online, so I'll follow up with you guys after regarding those questions. Thank you. Thank you, Marki. Bye, Shay.